Hi, everyone who's joining. A very good afternoon from TeamLease Digital. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today, Shaping India's Future Transformative Power of Data Centers. Okay, great. Hi, once again, and good afternoon to everyone. We are here with another special episode on data centers, our topic for today. We've done series of webinars, and I think we've picked up some of the most difficult yet complicated industries. Today, we are with one of a very unique industry shaping India's future. In today's digital age, data is the new currency. Data centers are the backbone of digital economy. For most of us, including me, data centers seem to be a completely new moon, and we are yet trying our best to understand as to what data centers are expected to do and what do they do all about. Yet let's just keep it very simple that as smartphones, social media, and IoT devices become integral to our daily lives, the volume of data is set to grow, obviously, and exponentially. With businesses rapidly digitizing, technology is becoming inseparable from our everyday lives. And to ensure a swift and efficient usage of this ever-expanding data centers play a pivotal role as the essential infrastructure that harnesses, processes, and stores data. Yeah. I think this is my version of understanding the data centers. While we have eminent industry leaders today who are going to make it more easier for us and will facilitate a discussion on how data centers are crucial in shaping India's future and explore their transformative power for businesses, for employees, and for organizations. So with any further delay, I'm going to quickly introduce to all our guests our eminent panelists for the day today. Please welcome Mr. Kamlesh. We have as our guest speaker today first, Mr. Kamlesh Harchandani, Vice President and Head, Data Center Design and Development, CapitaLand Data Center. Kamlesh has over 29 years of experience in diverse industries, of which 16 plus years is being dedicated to data center design and development. He's worked on projects, operations. He has received outstanding technical achievement from his multiple organizations and the current as an extra miler, eminent and excellence award. He expertises in business planning, capacity planning, and much more. In his current role, he manages a team of project managers in Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Bangalore locations for phase 1 data center design and executes multiple projects in and above his capacity. We welcome you, Kamlesh, to the session today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Munira. Thanks.
Next in line, we have Mr. Prafulla Savarkar, Director Designs Lumina CloudInfra. Prafulla is the Director Designs with Lumina CloudInfra. He has a total of about 20 plus years of experience, rich and diverse in data center design, projects, budgeting, testing, and commissioning. In his past roles, he has contributed in various key achievements like big data center campuses, liquid cooling systems, advanced lithium-ion battery technology installation projects, and so on and so forth. He has worked with several prestigious organizations like the NTT Global, STD-GDC, GEO, to name a few, which is more easier for audiences like us to understand. Welcome, Prafulla, to our session today.
Thank you, Munira.
We have Mr. Vipin Jain, President-DataCenter Operations with Controls. Vipin heads the data center operations and fit out at Controls Data Center. He's a gold medalist from Delhi College of Engineering and is a Stanford LEED certified. Vipin is a senior industry veteran with more than 30 years of experience in telecom and data centers with organizations like Siemens, Lucent, Motorola, Reliance, and Amazon. We welcome you, Vipin, to this session and joining us for today's event.
Thank you, Munira, and hello, everybody.
Wonderful, great. So I think quickly let me begin by, a very emerging question today, and while we speak on data centers, let me start by asking you, Vipin, what are the few key emerging technologies within the data center that are impacting the entire design and managing service operations of this industry? Could you throw some light on this subject?
See, I tell you, fundamental change that is happening. In fact, if we see from 2016 onwards, earlier it was mostly co-location for enterprise. Then we transitioned around 2017-18 to more and more cloud-based services being hosted in the data centers. And now into late 2023 onwards, we are seeing another shift in data centers of AI and machine learning loads being hosted in the data center. So there is a fundamental evolution of the requirement itself for the data center. And the way it translates to data center is the power loads, which used to be about 3 to 4 kVA per rack in 2016, have already touched 20 kVA plus per rack as we are speaking today.
Yeah.
And our forecast is in next 1 to 2 years, we will start seeing workloads of 80 kVA per rack that will be coming in. And the fundamental changes that will happen with this, requirement is the laws of physics, which were allowing, air to be used as a media for cooling the infrastructure, will no longer can be used to cool the infrastructure. Will have to evolve to a liquid cooling infrastructure. So that would be a very generational change for the data centers.
Interesting, Vipin. What is your thought of, while we, would like to understand from Kamlesh and Prafulla on the current state of data centers in our country, but quickly, if you can tell for our audiences, what is the data center for a common man today and how it will evolve and change the lives of people?
See, every one of us, every day throughout the day, we use so many applications, WhatsApp, email, even this particular conference, LinkedIn, everything that we do is hosted in some data center. There are servers which are hosted in that data center from which we are all accessing the content. So data center is like a big warehouse, you can call it. You can call it as a nerve center where all these servers and applications are running, which every one of us uses it day in, day out.
Interesting. Very nice. Thank you very much. Kamlesh, quickly to understand from you, while Vipul had made it very simple for all of us, what is the current state of data centers in India?
Well, if I talk about the current state of data center, I think, the Vipin has touched about, what is the current demand which we are seeing from the last couple of years and how they actually transitioned. And fundamentally, what it actually, called for a change over a period of time. But I think what we need to look at is right now, from a this continent perspective, if I look at it, India is actually digitally young country. And internet penetration is maximum as of now. And even if I look at from a geo-economic point of view, we are the youngest population in this planet today,
Yes.
and the highest population in this in this continent.
65% of our population is in the working age today.
Exactly. So that's where I'm coming from. See, when you have a young population, when your economy is growing, so I think we are touched economy about 4 trillion. We are the fifth largest, and we would be achieving third largest in the next 1.5 years from now, as we speak. So with the digitally young India, right, and so you will see that the young population will have a good amount of consumption. So I'm coming from a macro perspective. Absolutely. And it will reach out to the micro level with the various business requirement. So if you look at a macro perspective, the consumption is going to be tremendously high for the next at least for 3-4 decades. So when you see the consumption, eventually the most industry is actually going to grow. Now, if I look at from a data center perspective, yes, like most industries, data center industry has also evolved in the recent years. Vipin has touched about starting from the 2005 onwards, we have seen that evolve. The data center is evolved crazy with the densities which you have seen, that 2 to 3 kVA, which has touched today 20, and in fact I would say we have already touched 40 kVA now. So I think this industry has actually evolved, and apart from that, the central fiscal budget in last year, which data center industry has given as an infrastructure status. So that has actually given a further significant push in terms of the this industry being actually grow. Now,
Yes.
apart from that, if I look at immediately after the COVID, we have seen that new data center policies were also rolled out for the couple of states.
True.
I would name it first, like the Tamil Nadu. They came up during the pandemic time. Subsequently, we saw recently in the Maharashtra, then Karnataka. UP was the first which actually came in. So I think these policies also helping us the private investor to see apart from the demand which has been seen. So this has also given a significant push. Now, while we look at these aspects, we need to also look at what are actually the demand drivers, right? So we talked about it. We are India is a digitally young country. Smartphone users, if I just talk about,
Mhm.
I think after the pandemic, it was of roughly about 600 million smartphone users were there. But as per the one of the report, it talks about we would be touching roughly 900 million plus
Yeah.
by 2025. So look at the kind of the internet penetration is going to happen. It is just limited to internet penetration. So obviously there will be online services. It will help e-commerce. So in many ways it is actually going to increase the demand capacity. And if I talk about the data traffic, it has grew 60 times in last 7-8 years. 60 times.
Yeah.
It's huge actually, huge capacity. And if I talk about from a data consumption perspective, we have already surpassed China in
Yeah.
terms of data consumption also. So I think it's more, in terms of a data consumption, it's more appealing to be, the I would say outsourcing hub over a period of time, and eventually we are going to be also in a manufacturing hub in due course of time. And I'll also touch upon that. What is the reason behind this?
So
I
we
think,
come to the
yeah,
manufacturing piece while we discuss, and with while Vipin and you touched upon the growth, the rise. I think what are the factors? I'd quickly like to ask Praful. While we are discussing the rise, uh, definitely we see India as emerging, a data center hub for possibly the globe. What could be some of the challenges for this sector? While we are poised for growth and there is advantage that we are having, what do you think? There are few things, it could be either from the organization's point of view or from the job talent or from the government point of view. What could be some of the barriers for this sector, that you see in the given course of time that we'll hit?
So not barriers, but the challenges definitely will be there. And like you touched on the organizations, like the resources availability. While we are changing from technology, like the conventional technology was in data center, it is getting changed drastically. So whether we have that resources availability or not on an infrastructure base. So that is one challenge all the industry are facing, all the organization in the
Cost
data
is one
center
challenge
is
that we
facing.
see. Okay.
Same is for the data security or the privacy content. See, everyone is using
Yeah.
the data, uploading everything on the internet. So whether that data is safe, secured or not. So to have that security, have that privacy, whether we have the talented peoples to protect that data, because the data every time new virus are coming. So
Yeah.
all the data protection is also important, and the talent for that is a crucial things. And in this, the technology or the knowledge expertise is getting changed, or the new things are coming day by day. So capturing that data, absorbing that data, and implementing in the organization, or implementing in a servers. So that is a challenge. Whereas on the infrastructure projects, so basically for the data security and privacy, the intellectual quotient is very much required, high intellectual quotients, and mostly the resources on this factor part mainly on the individual contributors. Whereas if we go on a infrastructure development of a data center, like the in terms of square feet or in terms of megawatt, we're growing drastically, say 50 megawatt, 40 megawatt building in terms of square feet, 5 lakhs, 10 lakh square feet. So to manage all these data centers, only a intellectual quotient, high intellectual quotient resources are not sufficient. The people, because all these infrastructure projects are not done by the individual contributors, but it is a multiple teams, multi-level organization. So apart from the IQ, the good EQ, emotional quotient, is also important. So whether they can manage organization or the teams very well very well. So that is also important. So the talent having all these things on an infrastructure or on a data sector, the security and privacy. So resources availability is a challenge, and that is a big thing. And when we go on a projects or the industry growing at a higher space than the projected, so whether do we have the established process in organization, so that the individual person can know what is my role and up to what level I can escalate to my senior or my team leads. So for that, a standard process or the established process is very much important for a successful project completion, because all the data center industries, the organization have tremendous pressure to complete the projects, and to have the talented peoples with the set process is very much important, I believe.
Oh, that's interesting, and so basically we are talking about what will be the gap in terms of while the projections grow. Vipin, I'll quickly like to understand. Prafulla has touched upon a very sensitive subject of talent, resource, infrastructure, and processes that need to be structured. I'd like to hear from you. While we speak about talent in data center, do we have job ready talent for data centers today? That's one. And following question, to you and Kamlesh, what would be saying that, what kind of job roles data center will fuel in the next 4 to 5 years to coming? Yeah. So I'd like to know from your side.
Before I answer you this question, Munira, I want to just add something to your previous question on challenges that India will
Absolutely.
face in the data center area. See, up to a year back, we were mostly putting up data centers to meet the demand of India.
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
now we are as a country is competing with the rest of the world, how much workloads of AI and ML will come to India.
True.
And for that to come to India, see, two states in India, Maharashtra and Chennai, have to play a very major role because all the landing stations are here,
Yeah.
all the previous hubs are here.
Yeah.
But like, for example, the cost of power is more in Maharashtra, you know, and this is something this cost is making us India as a uneconomical compared to some of the countries worldwide.
Yeah.
So that way, some of the onus of India to rise in data center industry, will have to be taken a lead by Maharashtra and Chennai governments in coming up with policies which promote data center of India to the rest of the world. And once these gateways start attracting more and more demand, you will see that edge data centers becoming more and more, coming up in rest of the country. That is one. But coming to the job talent readiness,
Yeah.
in my view, the growth is happening so fast that the talent growth also need to happen. And all of that cannot come from the existing resources. So all of us in the industry will have the onus to develop new talent from the colleges, participate in programs to give them internships, bringing the new talent, investing in training opportunities for them, So, not the existing talent may not be sufficient, but how do we develop talent will be a key to this space.
That's interesting to know. And Kamlesh, in your view, while Vipin has touched on a very important subject, saying that the faster the growth, and that's what you spoke about, the talent needs to grow, while the existing talent will try to upskill itself. But we take the question a little later, saying that do we have upskilling readily available for a data center? Again, that's a different subject, and what organizations and government. But I'd like to know from you, what could be the key popular roles or other functions or jobs that you think the data center industry will require in the next coming few years? And how do you think that job seekers, or rather the existing talent, need to change their curve bell towards that?
Sure. So I think, while I touch upon this question, I would also probably try to elaborate, few more pointers, especially on the growth drivers. What
Sure.
else actually, given a additional space, which is actually, giving us a scarcity into the data center talent pool.
Right.
I think Vipin also touch upon that, the cloud adoption has also increased the capacity which we are actually, have to deliver. So basically what we have seen is while we are actually developing a capacities, there is an adoption also. So I think it's more than 90% of actually, the space is also being leased out. So while there is a supply, there is a demand as well. Now, what the new things which are coming is the AI, ML, and IoT, which are coming with the new technologies. I think, but DC functional requirements are not getting changed. That will remain intact. Now, with respect to few specific points, if I touch upon from the talent side, let's look at, if I just go back to the history, where actually the scarcity has started. If I touch upon between 2005 onwards, we have see that the data center as a colo was coming with a smaller capacities, maybe with like 200 and 500 kW.
Yeah.
Subsequently, we saw that there is a growth was happening on the captive data center side, where the most of the BFSI, ITs, they will started developing data center by their own. Okay, so this era we have seen where the growth was happening, and we could see some of the system integrators started this practice, as a data center solution, complete solution given to the clients. Somewhere in 2012, we really saw that a sharp declining happening in terms of new data center which is coming up. So what happened is the talent pool which was already there, they started migrating from the data center physical infrastructure to data center IT infrastructure. And I have saw, because since I have seen this transition from my side and with my even couple of friends which are do exist, but they are not exactly in this front. So they migrated from or rather they have done a trade-off in their career, shifting from a physical infrastructure to IT infrastructure, and largely not just limited to this, and also getting into the sales space. But subsequently, as we reached 2015 and 16, then we saw the sharp increase in terms of a demand which seen for the data center. However, the talent pool was still at the same level which we have seen in the 2013 and 14. As we've seen in 2017 and 18, there was not a sharp increase, there's a tremendous increase in the data center requirement. But what we saw, there was already scarcity. People have already migrated from that space. So that's how from 2018 onwards, the growth was happening at a phenomenal speed, which more than even 25% of a CAGR. But of course, there was already scarcity of a talent, which we saw there. Now what and in fact, if I just, it's not in India, I would say, it's happening globally.
Absolutely, I think.
And as per Uptime Institute, if I look, talked about that report, they said by 2019 we would actually require about 2 million of permanent staff which would actually serve for the data center, be it physical or IT infrastructure also. And in fact, it was less than 2 million. As we speak today, we required minimum 2.5 million of permanent staff, but we are not catering even more than 75% of the staff requirement. That's a talent scarcity which is there. So I think
largely now the problem what we are facing is that we are actually now having gaps in both the physical infrastructure development side as well. Plus, we are also facing a challenge is that as AI and technological advancements have happened, we are seeing job displacements happening even when it comes to the IT demand side of it. So the problem has not just limited, but it has doubled up with the rise and growth of the overall data centers. That's what I think you are adding a point. And Praful, coming
maybe
back,
I'll touch on one more point, Munira. See, while we are actually looking for, there is of course talent scarcity. I think we have to come out of old school of thoughts.
So, Kamlesh, I'll hold your thought there because that's a very important point that you're making. And let us just touch upon the demand gap. And I'd like to understand from Praful while we then come back on what, as a community together needs to be driven. And I'll hold that thought for some time. Praful, Kamlesh and Vipin have spoken about the demand, the rise, the gap that we see. Honestly speaking, today, data center is become an attraction, amongst the talent, right? I see a lot of job applications for a data center today, unlike a few years back when people were ignorant or not very clear about what needs to happen here. Having said that done, we still have challenge in terms of fulfilling roles at the infrastructure space or physical infrastructure development side. And we are also facing a challenge where the AI infusion is displacing roles, right? So while job ready talent is scarce, and we are working on what can be done to develop the talent, please tell us what are the popular roles that are still in demand where talent, or rather our job seekers today or audiences today should look at applying for in a data center. That comes to your mind.
So we discuss about the resources in the IT sector,
Yeah.
with resources in a physical infrastructure structure.
Right.
Already we're facing challenges. There is a gap in resource required versus resource available. But the third point about the data sampling or the data collection and data analytics.
Correct.
So we are not ready for that. Everywhere, the college guys and the young generation is viewing the content, and content is getting used to create the meaningful content. So we are reaching up to that level only. But as a industry growth, the data analytics and data sampling, and after that, create a meaningful requirement. So we need a much talent on that part, and the coaching and development on that task force. So the first two parts we know, but this third part about the data analytics teams, that is a upcoming things. I think so. So that is one part, because the based on AI and ML requirements. So that is the main. The data content availability is huge, and what to do about that data.
Yeah.
So unless and until we do bring that data, collect and do the analytics with a meaningful way, and put something that this what is the projection in the future industry. So if we get that data, the talent, good talent, then only the growth will be better on this part.
Interesting. So, Vipin, that takes me to a question to you, saying that, while Prafull speaks about, the still we are not there in many pockets, but as a fresher, a job seeker, what roles do you think, I mean, in this most simplest form that you can highlight that one can apply to?
See, I'll tell you the kind of roles that are available in data centers. First, there are safety roles.
Right.
How do you bring more safety into the data centers?
Mhm.
Then there are security related roles. How do you make data secure for everybody? How do you make data centers secure? Then third are the facility related roles with civil, mechanical, electrical controls, people needed to run these data center facilities at a large scale. Planning, deployment, operations are the areas in which these skill sets are used, from the facility side. Then on the IT side, there is network roles are there, storage roles are there, servers, managed services, cloud computing, telecom applications. So these are the kind of roles available on the IT and telecom side. So there is a big canvas of roles available in data centers today.
Very interesting. And I'd like to know from Prafull, and Kamlesh both, and these kind of roles, what is the intake of fresher today for these roles in data centers? I mean, as organizations or as the entire community, do you see, that there is a chance for a fresher? Is there any kind of training provided? Do data centers have the capacity to be patient and train, and then, look at a productivity beyond 6 months for these incumbents that join? While we don't have any formal education yet, and we come to that again, as a doer required. But what do you think, Prafull? And then I'd like to know the same from Kamlesh.
So as a young generation, the right knowledge, the expertise to do the job, very much important. But after getting that knowledge, and when the young generation is getting on the job, whether the organization is keeping them engaged, or they are giving a routine work, routine job. So that is also important. If you say the generation 10 years back, they used to do the routine work for 5 years, 10 years effortlessly.
Absolutely.
But here, if the young generation is not getting new things, new development, they will get frustrated and will switch for the another job or another organization or the new task. So the young
And data
generation is
center
fast,
not being
and
a glamorous industry,
they,
but being a
yeah,
more critical industry again. That's
yes,
that's
yes.
another
So as an organization,
challenge.
our role is to offer a new task, new development, product development, you can say, or the industry, new industry or a new task, or just keep on rotating so that they feel engaged.
But what is the percentage of fresher intake? Do you see a good number of percentage of fresher intake for this industry overall?
In a infrastructure development, fresher percentage is not that good. Whereas in IT background, the IT sector, yes, definitely it will be a good portion. Because in the physical infrastructure, mainly the senior leads with a very good industry experience, that is important. But the pyramid of this organization should be balanced with a large base of the GTs or the entry level engineers, and then maybe mid level and seniors. So that pyramid should be balanced. It should not be inverted like that.
Absolutely.
So many managers, but no engineers on the ground. So that should not happen.
One thing I'll add, Munira, here, what we are doing as an organization is, because physical infrastructure, as Prafulla said, you need experienced resources. But what we have done is we have started hiring freshers ahead of time.
Yeah.
So instead of being, if we are able to hire them at least 1 year ahead of time, and we have senior resources, at the same time, this becomes a new layer which overlaps them, get trained in this period so that next year onward, this layer can take charge of some of those activities. So that is how somewhere we will have to invest ahead of time to, meet some of these.
Yeah, just to add on this, a data center is known as the highest reliable and with the full of redundancy.
Yes.
So whether on a manpower or the resources, whether we are having redundancy or not. So that should be, as Vipin already touched on, that having the entry level resources availability, they will grow further. So there should not be any crunch on a resources availability to do the critical task.
I think that's very interesting. And Kamlesh, what's your viewpoint on this subjects that we are discussing? One is that for a fresher intake, what is in store for a data center? While Praful speaks about that, we still the hiring is not very high in a fresher entry, but India as an organization produces lakhs and lakhs of engineers, and we are fortunate to have a series of universities and education systems, yet we are not able to have job ready talent. So what could be one of the areas, coming back to your point now, the traditional method of or the outlook of hiring, that's where I think the point really symbolizes. Second is data centers don't have any formal education yet that can be linked to our early, schooling or our early stages of engineering, which enable. So, how do you think these two things are going to look at in the next 5 years?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I think if I look at one, I'll touch upon which are the fields where the data center people can look at data center as their career.
Sure.
So if I start from the business planning itself, so I think I'll not limit myself with something which is we are ready for us to begin with the project and subsequently going with the operation. I think it starts with the creating a strategy, developing a business plan, creating a capacity planning, and then you are getting into the the multiple probably then funding the project, creating a cost structure, then creating a design, and then getting into the authority. So I think if I look at from a complete project life cycle, there's a big numbers which we can create. While coming back to the the fresher, how these can be trained, I think I initially, as I was mentioning about, we have to come out of the old school of thoughts. I think what we used to do is, or rather, what we have seen in the previous time, we used to hire a fresher. We get into the training for a year, and then we see that this guy is actually whether he's able to cope up or not, and probably he start giving his contribution maybe after a year or so. We probably have to go back again and see, can we do start after once he done the graduation, or can we look at an internship?
Yeah.
Starting from second year onwards. So I think looking for a person from a fourth year or taking a campus interview at the when he's actually coming out of this college with a graduation, or I look at start once he has done a second year, you probably then involve them as an internship, because they always get 2-3 months of gap, and eventually you can tie up with the many universities saying that you provide them at least 2 to 3 months of internship for every semester, wherein you are hiring. So basically what I'm trying to say is, instead of hiring them at the final year, you hire them in the second and third year, and you provide them an internship program. And this would be a paid internship program, and you can probably start giving them a stipend, maybe from a third year onwards. It may not be so lucrative, but as he gets on the board, he will have the more the stipend as he actually start working with her. So I think we have to come out. And second, when I say another old school of thought means, see, we have seen in the past, you have a separate set of team to deal with the real estate, separate set of team to deal with the investment, separate set of team to deal with again for design as a separate within the team, and then you are outsourcing to the consultant as well. Separate again for your separate set of team for a project, and separate set of the PMCs to roll out there.
Exactly.
Can we look at a one single person, or maybe assisted with another guy? He acts as a program manager
to kind of take the journey complete.
Exactly. So basically, then what? So we know that there is a talent scarcity. So instead of we hire multiple resources, we just look at it maybe one or two resources, and then you are driving these people as a program manager for the project, up to till it's actually start production of the data. And then you are hiring outsource agencies starting from a design, PMC, and authority approvers. I mean, what not it can be done. So I think this old school of thoughts at some point of time has to actually work upon, because this attrition is not going to reduce, not likely to reduce. It is further going to rise it again, because the capacities are not going in India. The capacities are going across the geography from 5% to 25% of CAGR.
True.
So this attrition is going to increase. So better we come out of these, small steps, which will help us not only, to begin, with a young talent pool starting from the second, third year of their education.
That's interesting.
And then,
I agree to your point, Kamlesh, very well. And attrition, and that was the next question for us, saying that, how we will manage attrition another 5 years down the line for data centers, where we are going to increase our capacity. But I think for the sector to be more sustainable, we'd like to know from Vipin that, how could be the best retention possibilities, or rather what could be some of the retention methods that organizations should follow or need to follow today to kind of control, or rather possibly, at least not lose out the talent that has been invested into, or, the kind of, hand-holding that has been given to the fresher talent or to the talent that comes at the mid-level. Because generally these are the two pockets where you see the flow very easily moving out. So what's your thought on some of the retention possibilities in this sector?
I tell you, retention, actually the things that make retention are very, very simple human things. And sometimes we look at bigger things and forget, simple things. If you treat your people with respect, with love, care, talk to them, enjoy with them, spend moments with them, participate in their problems, your people will never going to leave you. But if we only put all the stress on them and with no human touch, and only treat them as machines, your people are going to leave you. So it is a simple human touch.
About the culture to build.
Care for them, and that once you adopt it as a philosophy, caring for people, then that will come out in various forms, in various HR programs, policies, and things like that also.
Okay.
Just to
I'll
three
hold
words for this.
I'm coming to you, and I'm coming to you with another sensitive question. So while Vipin speaks about the culture and the respect and people, hold is good for age group of ours. A few years back, we wanted respect in our jobs, and we wanted our bosses to respect us. I don't think today's children want only respect. They want monetary benefits.
Part of element is the challenge part of it, Munira.
Yeah, so I'll just come to you, Vipin, and I'm going to hold Prafulla on this question, saying that data centers as such overall, there's always a conflict still, saying that, certain pockets, the pay scales are extremely great, certain pockets, the pay scales are yet to be revised on. what do you think it will look like few years down the line, for data centers to attract talent? One, will monetary benefits be very important? Because I don't think today there is a particular range now defined for fresher talent also, right? We moved from a 2.8. Let's look at that level. We all moved from a 1.8 to a 2.8, now then to a 3.5. Now we are at about 4.5 for a fresher talent. And then again, the levers change, depending on what institute I bag myself from. How do you think data centers are going to cope up with this challenge as such when we're talking about being a good paymaster? Some thoughts from your side.
Yeah, so as a resources, generally because of the lack of knowledge on a generation, young generation or the freshers, we prefer to go with the experience with the taking the resources from the competitions. So that is a preference. So to cope up with that, as Kamlesh said, we can do some tie up with the institutions to have the knowledge expertise on a data center, which can be used on a physical infrastructure or a IT on a ground level, not like the theoretical knowledge I'm saying. The second point about the process. So if we establish a process with the crystal clear responsibilities, so any fresher or any junior resources can work on that, adopt that process and implement the things. So the senior leaders why required when there is a no or the not adequate process established with his or her own experience they set up the process on things and get engaged with the team members. So these two things I think we should focus as an organization or as the manpower supplier from your side. And just to answer extended answers to the Vipin's answers. So for the retention, so we should focus on learning, caring, and earning. So at least these three basic needs for a resources, I believe.
Absolutely.
So if as a manager or a leader, if we can manage that, the resources will not go. And
very nicely summed up, Prafulla.
Yeah, thanks. And,
Yes,
and maybe
yes.
I will also maybe extend this. See, you need to look at, what is actually how the transformation has happened today. When the people look at the job security or a job, he wanted to retain in the job. I think we have seen that our fathers have actually started. They were just earning the money and then spending the money at the home. The next generation came where they started also saving, and the subsequent So where I'm coming from, this generation, it's not only spending money, they are saving money, and they also want some sort of a leisure.
Absolutely.
They also want some sort of a break.
Bungee jumping
So I
every
think,
week.
So I think, as an organization, we come out with some sort of a task where, we give them a leisure, outbound sort of activity. These guys are also, as Prafulla talked about, the learning, caring, and, the earning also. So I think with these aspects, you are touching with them not only with with the job security, with learning, earning, and caring also, and apart from that, you are making sure that you are giving them a leisure within the organization, either in the form of outbound or either in the form of some sort of the vocational trainings which actually give them free space for themselves also. So I think a lot of activities can be looked upon, and over and above what I have seen in most of the organization, what plays important role is trust.
True.
yes.
Yeah, I completely
Trust. Yeah, because see, I can very well tell you that having so many private equity investors coming in this space, and most of the MNCs, this is what the common factor I have seen is, unless they establish trust, it is very difficult to retain the talent pool. And this is what I have seen in the most of the industries where attrition is also happening.
Sure. And let's understand one more point since we're speaking about trust. Most of the sectors today, and Vipin, I'd like to know from you, maybe if Kamlesh and Prafulla would like to join for sure. But let's look at the entire ecosystem of India today as a country. And since we are here, we speak about this country. Few years back, if somebody would have told us saying that I'm offering you a contractual employment, we would have just ignored the statement, would not even want to answer. Sentiments have changed today. we are now seeing more people interested, they are okay to take up contractual roles. And we're not talking about the sector which was already into this, the semi-skilled or the gray collar or the blue collar. We're talking about the white collar professionals, niche talent today, tech talent today at the most senior most positions, offering them contractual employment. This could be for a period of 1 year, 2 years. They're absolutely fine to look at. In this short-term engagement, how do you think, is it even possible to one build trust? Because then my and your relationship is just restricted to the work, restricted to the money that you pay me and the number of hours that I provide you. The remaining hours are mine. I may do anything with it. So one, how does one look at establishing trust or engaging, doing any employment engagement activities also? Second, this industry is sensitive. We are speaking about data. Everything is critical, which means cyber roles, security roles, safety roles are very critical. Do you think the sector will have a challenge again with that problem of not having too many contractual employees and a large headcount for companies to kind of stay with? How do you think this problem will resolve?
My sense is relationship cannot be bounded by the contractual or non-contractual arrangements.
Mhm.
Just for example, me and Kamlesh have interacted as, vendor, customer in different types, enjoy a good relationship. That has nothing to do with what contractual arrangements are there. These are, relationships are more of trust. How do you create a joint value for each other? How do you treat people? So these are very, very fundamental. I think that will, if we go in that route, it will be a big discussion in itself. But relationships can still be maintained despite whatever are the intellectual thing, as long as you're finding time to discuss with them, spend with time with them, create that learn, earn, and what was the third one Prafulla said,
Caring.
caring. That framework, if you adopt, be it your direct employees, indirect employees, you can extend it to anyone.
But do you see that we'll have to take the roadmap to, having more contractual employees at any level of
And it
the
is
work?
happening. If you see even all of the companies that we are representing today, I think we have a large set of contractual employees through different companies that we take. So
Mm.
that framework will continue to happen in data center industry, and it will be
Yeah.
more. And if you see the construction space, it is even more.
Yeah.
We give it to a GC gives it to multiple companies. Even they go to labor contracts. This is
Yeah.
such a big chain of employment that
Yeah.
happens in multiple places.
Yeah, just to add on
Yes,
this,
sir.
the data center industry as an infrastructure is getting matured. Like the way 20 years back, no one was knowing what is the data center.
I
Now
agree.
everyone is aware about what is data center and what is the infrastructure. So being the industry is getting matured on the infrastructure, so outsourcing will keep on happening.
Mm.
And outsourcing, like the earlier, the entire package, the respective packages were getting outsourced, like 30 or 40 packages. It is getting reduced to say 10 numbers or 5 numbers, or an entire package is getting outsourced. So that is because we know now there is no big things are happening on our infrastructure, but we want the speed to deliver, and with this quality, and with the minimal contractual obligations or a legal obligations. So just we have to pass on. So outsourcing will keep on happening. And in the data center, again, there are established organizations, but there are some new startups or new ventures are coming up. So with the strategy or the culture in that new startups is very dynamic. So with the dynamic culture, having all the resources on roll, it will be very difficult. So some portion of key team members on roll, and ground level staff on off roll. So that ratio will keep on happening. And when the startups gets matured, and over the 3 period or 4 period get the direction what exactly we wanted to do. So based on that, same employees can be transferred from off-role to on-role, because why to find out the new resources, which is
Yeah.
again the new things. So
But
that,
will critical roles still be outsourced, or organizations will choose to retain them as lateral employees?
so
I think,
based on my
sorry.
experience, sorry,
I'll
Kamlesh, based
come
on
to
my
you.
experience, the preference to have the off-role employees to the on-role employees, basically known employees.
Yeah.
The known devil is better than the so. The preference will be there, like conversion from off-role to on-role employees. So the agencies who are providing off-role employees to the organization should provide they should take care of their employees. Of course, the off-role employees gets taken care by both the organization. One is the supplier, the manpower supplier, and
Yes.
the client side also.
I think they have dual benefit.
Yes, so dual benefits.
Yes.
So
And these days, I must say that organizations are playing an extremely important role in I think there's no line of difference between an on-roll and an off-roll employee. Most of the organizations today that we speak with, are extremely coming up with so beautiful and so best practices in their entire workforce management policies, that there's absolutely not a line of difference between both the kind of employees, except that the salary credit comes from a different name. That's the only difference in most cases. Yes,
yeah, but the rights or equal rights.
Equal rights, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think what even Prafulla is touch upon. I will also just extend the same thing. See, please look at it. While we are growing at a CAGR of 20 to 25%, so there was certain set of contractors or partners who used to give us all these deliverables. Now, while we increase at a CAGR of 20-25%, eventually my entire vendor ecosystem has also grown up. So while earlier we were having just 8 to 10, I'm just giving a hypothetical case for one sector. If it is for 8 to 10 numbers, today it has gone significantly high as 25 to 30 numbers.
Absolutely.
So I think it's not limited within the people who are just working for a colo and subsequently limited to the design PMC. So the vendor ecosystem has also substantially gone up. So the attrition is not limited to only the within the data center who wanted to build for the various clients, or someone who was actually creating a captive data center. So I think it is beyond that also with the vendor ecosystem, which you have seen. Now, when I talk about a contractual, so eventually one or the other way, he's on roll with somebody.
True, absolutely.
So it's just that what exactly you're doing is probably the with a contractual arrangement, and one point which you said about Munira, that will that individual guys can come on the contract. I don't think so. This is actually going to work as an individual contract. As an organization is fine, because then you are responsible with the KRS to deliver also. You as an individual also sometimes difficult, because it would be difficult for a person to engage beyond certain timeline also, because you will not make them feel as a responsibility, because ultimately he's working as an individual, not as an organization. So I think as an organization, you can set a KRAs, you can set that the deliverables coming out from the individual people, but as an individual, I haven't seen that it's really coming out well from my, that's what I wanted to say. And again, coming out of this old school of thoughts, it's something which is going to work for the longer duration.
Absolutely. Yeah. So perfect. So I think we've touched upon a lot of points, and in the best interest of time, we have a few questions. So, quickly we'll take up a few questions, some interesting questions. I think one of the questions that an audience has put up, that do we see Indian talent lost to other countries in data center jobs returning to India?
Maybe one point I will just touch upon it. So while we are facing this talent scarcity in India, it's not limited to India. There was one research report recently, 1 or 2 years ago, it was actually published. They talks about North America and most part of the Europe.
Yeah.
They are calling within data center as a T tsunami. That they've used this word as a T tsunami. Means in this decade, there are most of the people who are actually getting retired from this industry. I'm talking about North America and entire Europe, and they are calling this as a T tsunami. So there will be a further scarcity is going to happen. So eventually, it's not happening in India. It's also happening across the globe, where probably the data center started much earlier also.
Sure.
So I don't.
I'll take Vipin and Prafull's view also. Vipin, what do you think? Do we see, talent being lost to other countries? And yes, there has been in some pockets. But do you see talent returning to India within the data center network?
I'm seeing two trends here, Munira. The young talent, not the college pass outs, but at least let's say with 4
The
5 years
mid category. Yeah.
category, they are getting a lot of options in Europe, Middle East, even in Asia Pacific, and we are seeing some churn from India to these countries in this space. At the same time, I'm seeing a lot of senior people, they move back to India, nowadays, so it is sometimes difficult to absorb those people, but there are a lot of people trying to come back to India also.
Yeah,
And
and that could be in some form, an engagement. As Kamlesh touched upon, can we have a program manager, let's say, which is able to train the batch from the first stage to the last stage, and I think these people could even serve as good consultants, maybe. So that's one of the. Praful, what do you think about this? I mean, do you think that talent is job ready? I mean, we're speaking about lack of job ready talent, lack of scarcity, but probably they come at a particular price point, or they come at a particular level, and do we have capacity to absorb some of them?
Yes, we have the all the peoples are not the mid generation or the young generation is not moving only because of the money. So now the young generation is moving for education also for a broad location. So they are not limited with the boundaries like in our generation we used to go from a village or a town to the metro cities. So that was a migration. Now that migration is happening to the country level. Like other countries, the generation wants to go with the other countries. It's not because of the organization or because of the salary, but because of the overall infrastructure. Like I'm paying the tax, but whether I'm getting that benefit or not. So there are many questions, or maybe they want to explore the new countries and new job locations. So that maybe the temporary over the period over 5 years or 3 years, they again try to come back to India. Many of our colleagues go there and try to reach out. I want to come back to India. So it's not because of only that we are not capable to hold them as an organization, but there are other reasons also, which is not in our control basically.
Absolutely, I agree to that. We have one good question again, and I think possibly that could be one of the last questions, saying that what is the women percentage contribution in data centers today? And I think given the fact that I'm talking to the entire male community here in data centers, I'm hoping that we have another webinar soon with a woman panelist as well. But Kamlesh, what are your views? What is do we see women applications? I mean, I read some stories where we are saying that just about 1 in 10 could be a woman application for a data center role, and that too obviously right now, since we've not progressed that more on the tech piece, maybe not on the infrastructure piece, but what's the percentage like? What do you think is?
I think, see, you please do not limit yourself to look at, the woman population within data center from a project perspective, even from an operation perspective.
Okay.
The project life cycle is very big. When I say very big, it actually starts from your strategy, business planning, capacity planning, real estate, budgeting, and then getting into the projects and subsequently into the operation. So these are big project life cycle. So if I look at starting from the strategy, business planning, capacity planning, and real estate, yes, I have seen that good amount of percentage from women, participating in those profile. Good amount of, but yes, I can definitely say that it could be 1:10 in terms of a project. I can under. But again, if I get into the operation, the percentage goes little wider.
Okay.
So if I look at in total, it is not a 1:10 for sure. It would be definitely roughly from 3:10 for as we speak today.
Okay.
And even if I look at from my organization perspective, because see, as I said, data center cannot be looked in isolation where it's only project and the delivery and the operation which you're doing. Project, data center as an entire function.
Sure.
Exactly. Which we talk about finance, we talk about legal, we talk about investment, we talk about admin, we talk about HR. So I think as a data center, as an industry, if I say yes, it is definitely not less than 3 versus 10 today. Even it could be more also. Sure. But yeah, when we talk about a specific profile in terms of a project, you may see one or a two versus 10. But its operation again, it is 3 versus 4, 3 or 4 versus 10. It could be. But
And
in Toto, if you see, the population is growing in this field as well.
perfect. That's interesting. Vipin, what do you think? I mean, I agree to Kamlesh, but for critical roles or roles which are still more male dominated in a data center today, do you see them changing in the near future? Are women more attracted, I mean, to kind of pick up jobs? I mean, automotive industry has been an example, right? There's been a drastic change. What we saw those days in factories and what we see today, maybe thanks to EV mobility, that where we are seeing. So it's again technology more. But do you see this happening in data center for critical roles, maybe in infrastructure projects or in project management roles, or roles which are to do more with big data, cybersecurity? Do you see that these roles are also going to be filled by more women in the coming years?
My honest admission here is we still have very low percentage of women in the data centers. And a lot of concerted efforts data center industry has to do to make the jobs more friendly for women, attractive for women. Things like night shifts and all needs to be aligned. There are many
And we
things,
have the complexities, correct?
complexities which needs to be did to attract women talent. But I have seen that effort being made in the data center industry across all organizations, and these numbers are growing. In terms of percentages, you may see a big jump in the percentages, but in terms of overall percentage of women, it is still very low.
Still very correct.
Compared to last year, you may see much better this year,
True.
and I think we are on the right path. Diversity in workforce is a facet which is almost all data center players have accepted, and they are trying to do work in that.
Yeah, and just to add on this, as a generalized, if we see whatever the tasks which are process centric, it may be bank or it may be the SAP operator or it may be to operate the process. So there the portion of the woman or the that portion is higher, whereas on the task oriented or a project oriented works, so that percentage is less, but still it is growing on that front also.
Yes, absolutely, it is growing. In fact, I think so. In India, while it actually boils down to a very simple statement. In India is probably today we are saying that 43% of women enrollment in STEM. We are globally at 43%, which is the highest. But workforce participation drops down drastically to about roughly 26% in any industry. Now, the problem is between the period of enrollment and then when you are work ready. So most of the women actually drop at the work ready stage, because by the time they reach there, they are either at the stage of marriage or kids, or and hence they move or circle back to roles which are more research, university led educational roles, and so on and so forth. I think that's a change that most of these industries are looking at, and I'm sure data center is not going to leave itself behind, and more diversity acceptance across sectors is kind of improvising. So that's very, on this footnote, I think we'd like to come to an end. While we have so much to speak in, and I'm sure each of our panelists here are mulling more and more thoughts, and we have a lot of questions here, but for all our viewers, we'll kind of take down your questions and answer them back to you once we take them from our panelists. We've spoken on everything today about data centers, such a diverse industry, such a broad industry, and I don't think that we were able to cover the whole industry as well, the amount of growth that it is poised for in the coming years. But one of the most emerging sectors of the country today, one of the sectors which in fact is both interdependent with all other sectors across, so right from a healthcare to a consumer, to a GCC, to an IT services, to a retail, any sector will possibly want to be highly, most importantly, the BFSI sector, not to forget, which is actually fueling the demand for data centers. We discussed growth, we discussed talent gap, we discussed fueling, and we discussed attrition. Much more, and I think we want to look at how data centers, together with organization and government, will be able to bridge a few pockets of talent fueling demand, get retention to a better stage, look at how the pay scale and the salaries would change in the coming years, given that the talent is expecting, the rise of talent expects the rise of salaries as well. While I think this industry has one thing that they have already installed is the trust, which I completely agree. It works on trust, it works on engagement partnership. With the element of high investment, high funding, it is also important that the sector has a lot of challenges and barriers that it fights daily due to security reasons or due to safety and other pressures. I think living by all of this, we see that there is no downturn for this sector. We see a constant rise happening to this sector. And I wish all my three leaders a lot of journey ahead with data centers and more progress, I'm sure. We stay tuned and we come back with another session shortly to know more about data centers, hopefully. I'd like to thank Vipin, Kamlesh, Prafulla. Thank you very much for your insights. So wonderful talking to all of you. I think we are today here on this platform with more than 100 plus years of experience with all
Right.
three of you put together. Yeah, young at heart, but extremely inbuilt and talented on your profile. Wishing you a very good luck in your journeys ahead, and hope that you together continue to contribute to the society, economy, and I think our education in making data centers one of the best industries of the years ahead. Yeah, thank you to all our viewers, and stay tuned. Goodbye for now, and we come back with another interesting session. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Bye bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.